Good afternoon, ma'am, and good afternoon, Ryle. So, this is me, Hanifaith Delia Pasio, your Bachelor of Elementary Education student. So, today, I was actually obliged to share my understanding about the themes of social studies program. And actually, there were 10 themes of social studies program. But since it was divided into two, the remaining 5 themes will be discussed. The remaining 5 themes of social studies are power, authority, and governance, production, distribution, and consumption, science, technology, and society, global connections, and lastly, we have civic ideals and practices. So let's start with power, authority, and governance. So this is about the study of how people create, interact with, and change structures of power, authority, and governance. So the term authority identifies the political legitimacy. So the power of government and identifies the ability to accomplish authorized goal. And also, authority is the power to make decisions and legitimacy. So, the development of civic competence requires an understanding of foundations of political thought and the historical development of various structures of power, authority, and governance. And it also requires knowledge of the evolving functions of these structures in contemporary US society as well as in other parts of the world. So it is very important to understand the foundations, the history of political or the politics in order for us to learn what are those various structures of power, authority, and governance. And also, it would give us knowledge about the evolving functions of the structures in contemporary US society. So, we could really say that the politics before and now has something different. So, learning the basic ideals and values of a constitutional democracy is crucial to understanding our system of government. By examining the purposes and characteristics of various governance systems, learners develop an understanding of how different groups and nations attempt to resolve conflicts and seek to establish order and security. So, constitutional democracy. So, if we talk about it, it is all about what we have in our country. So, the authority of the majority is limited by legal and institutional means. That is the right of individuals, and minority are respected. And also, democracy is all about people are sovereign and ultimate source of authority. Democracy is what we have, that is government of, by, and for the people. It is the government of a community in which all citizens, rather than favored individuals or groups, have the right and opportunity to participate. One example of that is this upcoming elections. We citizens have that right or opportunity to participate in voting. We are the ones who choose leaders. We are obliged to choose better leaders. In exploring this theme, students confront questions such as what are the purposes and functions of government? Under what circumstances is the exercise of political power unlegitimate? What are the proper scope and limits of authority? How are the individual rights protected and challenged within the context of majority rule? what conflicts exist among fundamental principles and values of constitutional democracy, and what are the rights and responsibilities of citizens in a constitutional democracy. So, as a student, I also have so many questions about politicians, but I know that later would be answered. So, through study of the dynamic relationships between individual rights and responsibilities, the needs of social groups and concepts of a just society, learners become more effective problem solvers and decision makers when addressing the persistent issues and social problems encountered in public life. So, by applying concepts and methods of political science and law, students learn how people work to promote positive societal change. So, basically, as a student, we are trying to identify the relationships between individual rights and responsibilities, and the needs of social groups and concepts of a just society. That's why we are learning in order for us to learn the rights and responsibilities of a citizens, not just an individual, but as well as the social groups. They also need to have their rights and responsibilities, because if we talk about citizen, we are belong to that particular country. We are able to participate and do our part as a citizen. So, learners become more effective solvers and decision makers when addressing the persistent issues and social problems encountered in public life. So, knowing the issues and problems we are encountered in our nation, as a learner, we could able to share a solution or a decision in order to help them or give them idea what's the best for our country. We become more effective with problem solvers and decision makers, because we already knew what are those issues and concerns we have encountered in this country. So we should apply those concepts and methods to political science and law. Students learn how people work to promote positive societal change. That is why we need to go on hand in hand work in order for us to have a better society, and to promote or give positivity in our society. Let's give better change to our society where everyone could really learn something and gain something. In schools, this theme typically appears in units and courses dealing with government, politics, political science, civics, history, law, and other social sciences. So, power, authority, and governance really talks about politics. So, as a learner, I'm also curious to this kind of discussion. It's because it is all about politicians. We have this upcoming event, which is election. We are involved to this as a citizen, and we are obliged to do something such as voting for the right person, or voting for the deserved leader for this country. So learners in the early grades explore their natural and developing sense of fairness and order as they experience relationships with others. So through this discussion, learners in the grades would really explore natural natural sense and developing sense of fairness and order as they experience relationships with others. They develop an increasingly comprehensive awareness of rights and responsibilities in specific contexts. So through it, we could gain or we could have knowledge about the awareness of rights and responsibilities of social groups as well as citizens. During the middle school year, these rights and responsibilities are applied in more complex contexts with emphasis on new applications. So, on early grades, they would explore the natural and developing sense of fairness, while on the middle school years, the rights and responsibilities are applied in more complex contexts with emphasis of a new applications. And learners study the various systems that have been developed over the centuries to allocate and employ power and authority in the governing process. So this study would really give us understanding about the different system that we had or happened before it developed, and also employ power and authority in the governing process. What are those process they go through when developing the power and authority in the government? So high school students develop their abilities to understand and apply abstract principles. So it is very good to apply our understanding to what we have now in order for us to have a great strategy in choosing leader. So for number 7, we have here the production, distribution, and consumption. This is all about economics, and it is very clear that this is all about goods and services. So if we talk about production, this is all about a process of transforming goods and services from other country as well. It is all about collect, process, and manufacture. However, and also if we talk about distribution, this is all about to spread the product throughout the marketplace where it has a lot of people can buy it. And also distribution is all about transporting products to the distributors warehouse, transporting products to retailers or shops. And for consumption, this is all about purchasing and use of products. This is us. We are the consumer who use or who are using or who are purchasing products and use them. So people have wants that often exceed the limited resources available to them. The unequal distribution of resources necessitates systems of exchange, including trade, to improve the well-being of the economy, while the role of government in economic policy making varies over time and from place to place. So we could really say that an equal distribution is unavoidable because there are some people who has a lot of wants, who needs a lot of resources. Increasingly, economic decisions are global in scope and require systematic study of an independent world economy and the role of technology in economic growth. As a result, a variety of ways have been invented to decide upon answers to 4 fundamental questions. So, first we have here is what is to be produced. How is production to be organized? How are goods and services to be distributed and to whom? What is the most effective allocation of the factors production, land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship? So, we should really make good decisions in order to distribute the goods and services properly, where we could have a fairness distribution. In exploring these themes, students confront such questions as what factors influence decision making on issues of the production, distribution, and consumption of goods, what are the best ways to deal with market failures, how does interdependence brought on by globalization impact local economies and social systems. So students will gather and analyze data as well as use critical thinking skills to determine how best to deal with scarcity of resources. The economic way of thinking will also be an important tool for students as they analyze complex aspects of the economy. So as a student, we also gather and analyze data, gather information and analyze data in order for us to know the best, to know what is the best to deal with scarcity of resources, or what are the best way for distributing goods and services. So in schools, this theme typically appears in units and courses dealing with concepts, principles, and issues drawn from the discipline of economics. Young learners begin by prioritizing their economic wants versus needs. So if we talk about young learners, these are the people who prioritize their wants and needs, and also people who didn't consider others wants and needs. So they explore economic decision making as they compare their own economic experiences with those of others and consider the wider consequences of those decisions on groups, communities, the nation, and beyond. So they really into economic decision making and compare it to their own economic experiences from other, and consider the consequences of their decisions as a groups, in communities, in nations, and beyond. In the middle grades, learners expand their knowledge of economic concepts and principles and use economic reasoning processes in addressing issues related of fundamental economic questions. So, from the young learners, they are basically only prioritizing their wants and needs. However, in the middle grade, learners really expand their understanding of their concepts and principles in economics, and use some reasons about economics in addressing issues related to the fundamental economic questions. And to high school students, develop economic perspectives and deeper understanding of key economic concepts and processes through systematic study of a range economic and socio-political systems, with particular emphasis of the examination of domestic and global economic policy options related to the matters such as trade, resource use, unemployment, and healthcare. So, in every grade, there are really particular topics that have been provided, and they has different topic for that. So for number 8, we have here science, technology, and society. So if we talk about science, technology, and society, this is all about the study of relationships between society, technology, and science. So society, a study of how social media tools affects people, politics. So Science is what we have in our society, as well as technology that we are using to our society, and society is what we have, and society is the place where science and technology stood up. So science and its practical application, technology, have had a major influence on social and cultural change and on the ways people interact with the world. So we really knew that having science, we really apply it to technology. And that technology and science has a really big influence to us. Not just to us, not just to people, but also to our society or to our culture. Sometimes, not just sometimes, but it really gives changes to our culture and on the ways people interact with the world. We could really compare the difference between the past and the current happenings, because before they don't have their technology has a big difference from this generation, because these days we are already using so much, we are into technology, especially in this trying times, in this pandemic. We are not allowed to go outside. That's why we are using technology, and using technology, it really gives impact to our society. So scientific advances and technology have influenced life over the centuries, and modern life as we know it would be impossible without technology and the science that supports it. So actually, our technology now is advanced rather than before. And technology gives so much influence in our life over the centuries. Like what I said before, technology is not that so high tech as what we have right now. Because we have so modern things in these days, and as we know it, it would be really impossible without technology and the science that supports it. If I'm not mistaken, it is very true that at these days we couldn't live without technology. And science really supports it because they has connections. Both of them has a connections. So this theme appears in units or courses dealing with history, geography, economic, and civics and government. It draws upon several scholarly fields from the natural and physical sciences, social sciences, and the humanities for specific examples of issues, as well as a knowledge base for considering responses to the social issues related to science and technology. So this theme is all about is what subject we have right now about social studies, which is dealing with history, geography, economics, and civics and government. So if we talk about society has a lot of things we could really talk about. In our society, we have history, we have geography, economics, and civics, as well as government. So that's why it is very important for us to tackle this kind of topic. So young children learn how science and technologies influence beliefs, knowledge, and their daily lives. Yes, it is very true. Young children learn what are those influences impacted to their beliefs, knowledge, and as well as to their day-to-day lives. They study how basic technologies such as telephones, ships, automobiles, and airplanes have evolved, and how we have employed technology such as air conditioning, dams, and irrigation to modify our physical environment and contribute to changes in global health and economics. So, uh, we are already know what are those influences of technologies to what are those influences that can technology gives to us by using telephones, ships, automobiles, and airplanes. By using airplanes, nagamit tag airplanes. By using telephones, our physical activity would be actually lessened because we have already these telephones and automobiles to work easily, to share easily, and to do something that is very easy. So through technology, we already know that it really gives big impact, and it would really makes our work easy, which it didn't waste time. One example of that is for dams and irrigation. It is very important to have. It is very important. Although technology gives bad impact, however, it still gives positive impact to our society. To the fact that it helps us to work easily, it helps us to lessen our physical activities because we have this friendly technology that would help us to make our work better and easier. From history, their own and others, they can construct examples of the effects of technologies such as the wheel, the stirrup, and understanding of DNA and the internet. So we all know that the technology before is different from what we have right now, because before they really need to work harder, and it takes time before they could get their particular goal. But then we have this high-tech technology. We are able to do our work that is very easy and work fastly. And one example of that is understanding of DNA. If I'm not mistaken, before there was no DNA. I haven't researched that, but I think so. But and as much as I know, DNA now is work easily, and it takes a little time. Well, the DNA before takes more time in order to get the result. The internet, there's still difference. The internet before and now, because the internet before is not that so fast. Unlike today, we have this internet that is very very work fastly. In the middle grades, students begin to explore the complex influence of scientific findings and technology on human values, the growth of knowledge and behavior. So in the middle grades, learners would start explore the influence of science technology to human values. What are those? Growth, knowledge, and its behavior. So for the 9, we have here global connections. If we talk about global connections, this is about when the globe is connecting together. What country connects to other country and what makes it connected. So, global connections have intensified and accelerated the changes faced at the local, national, and international levels. The effects are evident in rapidly changing social, economic, and political institutions and systems. So it is very evident that changes comes rapidly. Changes to our society, to our economic, as well as to the politics, institutions. World trade has expanded and technology has removed or lowered many barriers. So through technology, world trade expand or widen easily. And technology remove those barriers that can make the situation longer. So through technology, as what I have said earlier, through technology, things work easily and it takes short time. Many barriers bringing far-flung cultures, institutions, and systems together. Connections among nations and regions of the world provide opportunities as well as uncertainties. The realities of global interdependence require deeper understanding the increasing and diverse global connections among world societies and regions. So, there are many ways where country connects to other country. One example of that is we have this called world trade. World trade, um, world trade, um, like in economics. One example of that is I don't know. I'm not so sure, but I think Philippines were the second country who produce rice to other countries. So that makes the global that makes our country connects to other country. So, analysis of the costs and benefits of increased global connections and evaluating of the tensions between national interests and global priorities contribute to the development of possible solutions to persistent and emerging global issues. By interpreting the patterns and relationships of increased global interdependence and its implications for different societies, cultures, and institutions, students learn to examine policy alternatives that have both national and global implications. So, having connections to other countries, it would really give costs and benefits to increase or to strong the global connections or to strong its relationships. We must have to learn how to connect one thing to another, that because it really gives impact, it really gives positive impact. So this theme typically appears in units or courses dealing with geography, culture, economics, history, political science, government, and technology, but may also draw upon the natural and physical sciences and humanities, including literature, the arts, and languages. Languages. So, the global connections, we could also learn this from different units or courses such as geography, culture, economics, and etc. Because through those units, we could still learn from it about global connections. Through exposure to various media and first-hand experiences, young learners become aware of how things that happen in one part of the world impact other parts of the world. Yes, like what we have right now, we are exposed to this pandemic. And, 'di ba? through media, we knew that there was a virus that come from China, and we are part of this kind of pandemic. So whatever they had in their country, which is China, we are still belong, or it still give impact. Sad to say, it's negative impact, because we are part of the world, and this is global connections that could turn us into crisis. Not just turn, but we have this right now. Within this context, students in early grades examine and explore various types of global connections as well as basic issues and concerns. So through this, students in early grades would understand the types of global connections, what are those, and what are those basic issues and concerns that must be solved and as soon as possible, in order for us, in order for everyone to have a better society, or smoothly environment. And lastly, we have civic ideals and practices. So this is all about the learners. Learners should prepare themselves to full participation in society. An understanding of civic ideals and practices is critical to full participation in society and is an essential component of education for citizenship, which is a central purpose of social studies. So this is all about the learners. This is all about us. We must prepare ourselves to any situation we could encounter. We must, because we are citizen, and we are actually belong to certain society, which we are also allowed to participate because we have this right. All people have a stake in examining civic ideals and practices across time and different societies. Through an understanding of both ideals and practices, it becomes possible to identify gaps between them and study efforts to close the gaps in our democratic republic and worldwide. Learning how to apply civic ideals as part of citizen action is essential to the exercise of democratic freedoms and pursuit of the common good. So, since we are in this institutional democracy, we should really prepare ourselves in participating something, because having this kind of democracy, we are allowed to participate, or we are allowed to show our right as a citizen. We must understand the ideals and practices in our country. So through social studies programs, students acquire a historical and contemporary understanding of the basic freedoms and rights of citizens in democracy. As what I have said, we have freedoms, not fully freedoms, but freedoms that is, we are allowed, or we have the right to choose better leaders, to choose the right things in our country, because without its people, they couldn't make anything on it. And learn about the institutions and practices that support and protect these freedoms and rights, as well as the important historical documents that articulate them. Students also need to become familiar with civic ideals and practices in countries other than our democratic republic. So we should teach to our students that they must be familiar with the civic ideals and practices in their in particular country, because it is very important that we are aware of the things that belongs to our country. So in schools, this theme typically appears in units or courses dealing with civics, history, political science, cultural anthropology, and fields such as global studies and law-related education, while also drawing upon content from the humanities. So in the early grades, students are introduced to civic ideals and practices through activities such as helping to set classroom expectations, examining experiences in relation to ideals, participating in mock elections, and determining how to balance the needs of individuals and the group. During these years, children also experience views of citizenship in other times and places through stories and drama. So that's all for today, and thank you. Thank you.